Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to look at a really nice old snare drum from the 50s. This is a Slingerland Gene Krupa snare drum. Not sure if this is what Gene played, but that was the model. It's got the old Radio King clamshell strainer, which has its own fair share of problems, which we'll show you. All the parts are original, including the snares, which are not in great shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these drums. I have several old Radio Kings like this. This happens to be one that I use a lot. It's a great sounding jazz snare drum. This particular drum is not in great shape. I would consider it good. If I was going to sell it, I would just say good shape. The wrap is in great shape. It's a white marine pearl. Everything is good. It's not yellowing. It's got the old Slingerland black and gold badge, which I believe this was the first time they used that on this drum. I could be wrong. Some of you collectors will correct me if I am wrong. But I believe that was the first appearance of that black and gold badge. So I have on this drum an older Ludwig Weather King head, which is a good head still. I put it on there the other day because it sounds great with brushes, this head. Sometimes I use calfskin on this drum, and it sounds good. Pretty much right now, I'm starting to take my calfskin heads off my drums because we're getting into the warmer months, and that's when it's dangerous. That's when you can break them pretty easy. So winter's over, and everything's getting more humid, and day to day it just varies, and I don't want to break a head. So I'll take them all off now and replace them with plastic. Now underneath here, we have an Ambassador, a Remo Ambassador. I'm going to change that out for a Diplomat. And also, you'll notice this does have pretty deep snare beds. I don't know if you can see that. And that's good. That's one of the things that really, I think, makes this drum sound have a really nice snare response. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top head off, and I'm going to show you how to adjust this clamshell snare mechanism, which can be troublesome. How to make sure it's reliable. The problem with these drums a lot of times, unless they were in perfect balance, in other words, the tension from this side, there's an adjustment, and then the clamshell lever, if they weren't adjusted, nothing would happen. Either you get no tension on the snare. So if they have to be adjusted correctly, and sometimes the knob inside would come loose, and then this, as you see here, doesn't really do anything. You literally have to hold it. And I have seen some old drummers use this thing with some sort of rubber band contraption between these two lugs and this just to get more snare sound. That's not what you necessarily need to do. You could put some washers in there on the inside and get more tension out of this thing. But that being said, it's not a great design at all. It's extremely cheap. These things tend to break off over time. They're very wiggly. So you lose tension. You got to really tighten the hell out of it to get tension like that. And even then, it's wiggly. So again, a poor design in my opinion. The other thing with this is that the snares never really go off all the way. So, all right. So you literally would have to turn this to get the snares to go off unless it's perfectly tensioned. That's what we're going to talk about. I got them to go off by having to do that. But of course, you don't have to do that. If you're playing a gig, you don't want to be like messing with the knob to turn the snares off. So a lot of problems with this kind of strainer. And obviously, this was replaced with the Zoomatic and then the TDR strainer, which is great. Both those are good strainers. All right. And some of the Radio King strainers are even better than this. So the actual earlier ones, which I have one, and I've showed you that strainer on the drum set snare drum videos on that big deep Radio King drum. That's a great drum. So we'll take this off. Now be careful if you're using a power tool to do this. Make sure it's in reverse. You don't want to strip the lugs. You can mess up the tension rods too. Some people call these tension rods part of the lug. They call them lugs. That's okay. I do that too sometimes. Not a big deal. What I do is I'll just go around the drum and I'll loosen these to make sure there's no chance of stripping anything. And then I'll use the power drill to get them out faster. Now you can replace the rims with die-cast rims. I just haven't done it. on this drum, but I'm sure that might make it sound a little bit better or different, but I think it sounds good just like it is. All right, so we're going to take this off. Make sure we got them all loose. This one's got some thread left. All right. That's okay. All right, so there we have our shell. Smell that oldness. Some beautiful shape. Great shells. Okay. Nothing signed, nothing on the inside, no numbers, nothing like that. All right. The wrap's in great shape. Like I said, it's real tight. A few little defects. I haven't really cleaned this one in a while. I'll probably do that. But let's look at the strainer. So you see this right there. Hopefully you can see that. This bolt there. That's what comes loose. Okay, always. So you can put a lock nut on there. So a lock nut's going to have some plastic in it, and then when you tighten it, it won't come loose, and then a washer. So that's what you can do. But in the meantime, what you need to do is tighten that thing up so you got some tension back on it. And then you can put your lock nut on there. See? So now it's not wiggling anymore. Over time, this thing's going to work itself loose. Guaranteed. So one thing you can do is you can take a pair of vice grips very carefully, and the inner nut, you're going to tighten that a lot. That's what comes loose, all right? And then loosen up, turn up the strainer off, and then you're going to take that once again and very gently, you could use a wrench if you want. Just crank it just a little. All right, now we're in business. So you see how it snaps like that? That's what you want, okay? Make sure you do this when it's off. And then do it again. Just one turn at a time and keep checking it. At some point, you'll get to a point of not absolute tightness on the inside, but where this thing just fits in that groove and it won't wiggle. That's when you stop. It's still wiggling a little, so I'm going to keep just adjusting it. And again, you can use a socket set if you want. You don't want to strip anything with this, but going nice and slow. All right, that's good. No wiggle, okay? Just barely. So that's how you fix it. And then if you want, you could take another nut or a lock washer and screw it on there on the back. Okay? If you want to do that. It's very much spring controlled. You can see that spring there. And as you compress this, it just moves it in a little. So that's off and that's on when it's in farther. It's kind of a weird setup. But the good thing is you can adjust it so it's kind of half on, half off. Sort of like the new Doc Sweeney strainers. They sent me some snare drums that have that. You know, you can do almost a half off, half on. All right, and then what you do is you balance the back like that. Now, what that does is that pulls this snare here. This snare is screwed into the strainer. So there's no cable. There's no kind of ribbon. There's nothing. So if you replace these snares, which I need to do, what you need to do is get a 15-inch set of snares and then drill a hole in them. I ordered actually a set. They have not come in yet. But that's what you'll do. So if I take these off, that creates tension. When you put them on, in other words, that creates tension on the strainer. It holds it together. So make sure these are tight. We're going to leave them on for now. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to take them off because I want to change the bottom head. So right now I'm loosening that side, and that's off. So then see how they come up? And you see how worn out these are. You know, these are literally 70 years old. Okay? So they're pretty much out of whack. All right, so we'll take this off. Now, be real careful when you do this not to lose this screw. All right, that screw. You can find another one, but it's just a pain in the neck to find the exact screw. And it's original parts. All right, and then you take this one off here. And then you'll just take the snares out, and that's it. All right? Pretty messed up. Okay, so, and then what we'll do is we're going to take this bottom head off, and we're going to put a diplomat on there to fix the sensitivity of it. So once again, I will not use that to start with. I'll go around. That lug is warped, bent. So I found this drum at a flea market, believe it or not. It was in a case. Always look in the cases. It's a Ludwig clamshell case, like for the acrylite, like an acrylite case. It's like, oh, an acrylite, another one. I have like 7 of them. I wasn't going to buy it unless it was cheap. I said, oh, what's this? You know, it's like, that's always such a great moment when you find something like that, you know. I was really excited, and it was very dirty, so I took it home and I cleaned it up, but I didn't change any of the parts. Like I said, sometimes I do that. I'm going to keep this one all original. Since there's no repairing it, sort of, you know, unless I buy another one and use parts from that, which I'm not going to do. I don't need 2 of these. Okay. I'll just leave this all original parts, and then someday I'll sell it. Okay, so we'll do that. And the bottom looks great too. No, a few little cracks. Sometimes you'll see in the reinforcing ring there, that'll kind of pull away, but not bad at all. And what you could do if that's the case, you could take some, you know, glue, wood glue, good wood glue, and open it up, and then just get it in there. See how my fingernail just goes in there? Put it in there. Use a Q-tip, like one of those chamois or chamois Q-tips I showed you in the drum cleaning video. Put it in there, clean it off with some warm water, then clamp it with a clamp. Not a clamp that's a clamp with soft clamping devices. So that's what you want. Like you saw in the, if you watch my lathe video, you'll see some of those clamps I use. All right. So you don't want to dent that. And that's what I'm going to probably, next time I take this head off, I'll do that. For right now, it's fine. So then you take your really thin diplomat. See the difference in, it's not much, it's millimeters really, but it does make a difference in sensitivity. And I like to have the logo straight on, like that. If the strainer's here, I put the logo there. It's superstition, I guess. And for now, we're not going to do anything fancy. We're not going to clean it or anything now. We're just going to put this back on. And what I'm going to do, probably in a couple months or so, I'm going to take this drum apart completely because I do want to change these rims out and a couple of these lugs that are completely warped. And I'll clean it then. I don't feel like filling my studio with the banana scent of that cleaner I use. So once again, when you're doing this, always finger tight first. Never use the key until that's done. Press down on the rim, okay, like that, as you do it, so you get the same tightness all the way around. Now again, some of these that are warped, they're going to need a little help. But you see how I'm pushing down on the rim. That's important. So it sits. That head gets seated in there. Now I will not use any kind of drill when I put on a head like this. Just taking them off. All right. Now we'll just go around there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is an 8 lug drum, not a 10 lug drum. Now, what I'll do for this, there's glue, so I'll press down on it and get it broken in. All right. So as far as notes to tune this to, there's a lot of things you can do. Like I said in the last video, I like tuning my drum, my top head to an A. Sometimes I'll do a B and the bottom head will be an E. One thing you need to remember, when you use the strainer and you activate it, it actually brings up the bottom head like a minor third. So if you do a fourth, you know, E to B, that's a fifth below. I like the bottom head to be lower than the top head. So it's not like a tom where you're tuning them both the same. I like it a little lower. That gives the drum some fullness. So I'll tune this. Is there? So a little bit higher. That's close. That's fine for now. All right, and then I'll put the snares back on. When those new ones come in, I'll change them out. You're going to notice the difference. Now, putting these back on can be tricky. You got to line up this hole, and it's finicky. I do remember that. Yep, there we go. Sometimes it kind of rolls around in there. The bottom plate of the clamshell, they're all like this. It's a pain in the neck, really. I don't know who designed this. Sometimes it takes a while for it to catch. There we go. Come on. All right, don't tighten it all the way yet, because you're gonna have to pull this one. This one's a little more tricky to get on. It's got to be perfectly lined up, and you have to pull on the snares a little to get it lined up. All right. This is going to be a vast improvement. I know it is. So what I'll do now is I will tighten this, and you see it pulling. That's how this works. It pulls it and pulls it down into the snare bed. So what I'll do, make sure it'll go off. Good. We're in good shape. I'm gonna tighten this a little more so I don't have to open it up again. Okay, we'll see what that does first. And I'm gonna use the same head. I usually use this drum with brushes quite often. All right. Once again, finger tight. Not easy on these old drums because everything's kind of bent. And press down. So, let's just see something. We're not going to play it loud, too loud. We'll make the mics distort. So what you want to do is you tap on it, and then you're going to have the snares off. Okay, so the strainer's funny because that's on, that's off, I mean. That's on, that's all the way on. So it goes down farther. You just got to, and they're all a little different. It's kind of your own little custom strainer. They're all act a little differently. All the ones I have, about 4 of these clamshells. So you tap on it until you lose snares, and then you want to put the snares on, and then just very slowly, incrementally, raise it. Now, there's nothing you could do about, the overall response of the snares except change out the strainer. And at that point, you have to re-drill it usually, and the drum loses all its value. If you don't care about that, by all means, it's a good shell. Change the strainer to something more functional. But as you see, that bottom head, and we're going to put this on the drum set here in a second so you can hear the drum. That bottom head makes a huge difference. The thinness of that bottom head on the old drum, so Diplomat all the way. If you use a calf head, the thinnest calf head you can. And an ambassador weight on the top. And then again, you're going to adjust this right adjustment. And remember, most of the snare drums back then did not have the ability to balance that strainer. It was a necessity with this strainer. So that's off. So now we have an off mode where before we did not. So we're going to pause here. I'll stick it on the drum set and just play a little for you. So here we are at the drum set, and I put the snare on here, and it sounds good. It's tighter. I am getting a good amount of snare sound, but it's not really loose like it was before. So I'll play a little for you. So this drum, I would characterize it as being very, very dry. Now I do have this little piece of tape on there, and I'm going to take this off now. And that's not going to do too much, but we'll see. So it's definitely a different kind of dry sound. It's nothing like a metal drum. And as far as wood drums go, it's very, very dry. Now you can also play pretty soft on it effectively. It has lots of articulation. So as far as the strainer goes, I was able to, like I said, fix it. It doesn't wobble anymore. And when we try to turn the snares off, though, they won't go all the way off, probably. Well, there you go. Not too bad. We have to loosen this a little. So it did fix it. Again, that sound, that dry sound, it's very unique. So there you have it. That's how you fix these clamshell strainers. So if you're lucky enough to have one, they are very fussy, and be really careful when you put it in your drum case. I usually put kind of a towel over this part, and I'll leave it like that. See how I'm doing that? I won't leave it up. They're liable to break off. These things are very fussy that way. And then I'll wrap it in a towel, so just in case the case gets dropped. I don't use a soft case either. I use a hard fiber case or even an anvil case for these things. So I'm just going to play a little and enjoy this drum, and we'll see you next time.